There's something very interesting happening with James Gunn's Superman, breaking the mold of superhero flicks and lighting hope for past and present audiences come together to see the rebirth of who used to be the most beloved superhero of all time. What if Superman is bringing something more? Maybe an old-fashioned way of seeing movies, or maybe a retooling of what it means to have a good story in modern cinema.
Welcome to First Takes, where we talk and sometimes complain about filmmaking. Hope you enjoy the ride and don't forget to subscribe. Let's begin.
James Gunn. When everyone thought you were on a sinking ship with DC, it seems like you were many steps ahead of us. Superman is supposed to be the worst idea possible to build a whole franchise around at this point in time. The whole superhero genre is being heavily affected by an audience burnout that makes people just hate projects even before they are premiered. Let's check out Ironheart. It was a huge disappointment. Daredevil sadly was also very underwhelming. New Avengers at the end felt more of the same, even though it had like a good premise. All of these projects just don't do enough numbers. And it's a little weird because Daredevil was great, but maybe the remembrance people had on this one wasn't enough. In Ironheart, I don't feel it was such a bad series. It's just that it both suffered from the backlash of people being completely tired of superheroes and just not enough hype for it. Who would have thought that when Scorsese said superhero flicks were not really cinema, he was almost about to declare a dark era for what was supposed to be a sure and profitable thing. Superman, he is the symbol of might and prowess, but to an excess. Few people still say that he is the super guy. Audiences are preferring more down-to-earth characters, and he has just become a symbol of invincibility. And we've learned to understand that that doesn't make people be invested in those stories. The latest iterations, in a vague way, could only show the other side of the character. The very dark and moody one who just got sick of being nice to everyone. And it made him basically a symbol of despair. Let's look at Homelander, and even James Gunn himself did Brightburn a few years ago with that same type of story. Now, there was a sense of good news coming from early screenings for this one, and that helps to avoid premature backlash from audiences. But let's be honest, it's DC, one of the most hated and roasted companies in recent years. Zack Snyder basically was blamed for all of it. And some. I feel the general audience had that sense of a probable disaster coming up. But what if this film is actually bringing something else to the table? And it really isn't that BS of this movie being woke or something like that. It's more about quality and care for good stories. Okay, style-wise, there's a clear attempt to bring everything to the same scope that the Suicide Squad had a few years back. I feel like a sense of a vintage or like 90s style behind the shots, and it makes everything feel attuned to that DC vibe of having superheroes everywhere. What I mean is they're fighting basically in front of your window every few hours, and there's like that funny Marvel kind of style of funny things, but with some more flavor or at least some kind of like defined personality. And okay, I'm 28. I'm not sure about this, but at least in my mind it feels that it is very like Metropolis styled. As I probably imagine it in my brain. And there comes something a little unexpected, at least at first glance. We have already seen Lex Luthor in all his bald ways possible. What I mean with this is like funny, eccentric, angry. So there was no point in seeing that again. Same with Clark Kent. Just think about how many times have we seen him interacting for the first time with Lois, or learning how to fly at his parents' farm. I feel that partly that was my fear with this film. Well, no. This film assumes that of course you already know everything about the origins. Some things haven't appeared before, of course. Superman's fortress feels like a real home for some reason, Not like an abandoned temple in the middle of nowhere, no. Technically, Clark, or I mean Kal-El, feels safer here. He can just rest and be himself, remember his parents' legacy, and take care of his dog. And let's talk about Crypto. He shouldn't be this present in a serious film. These kinds of background characters tend to be just running gags. They're isolated from the real show. They instead go to short series or animated flicks. But Crypto is here, making Superman extra careful about the dangers that may arise. How about that for animal lovers or pet owners, especially dog owners? But something very important of this film is Luthor. He is a menace. He is no longer a resentful bald guy with temporary plans that always fail. No. Now, he has a fully fleshed out plan. And it gets super descriptive here. He has a lot of pocket dimensions, a group of high-tech geniuses, some extra baddies, and pure control over all of his environment. He gets involved in politics, provokes wars, and is a multimillionaire present in government planning. Basically, a real villain from our times. He is a public figure with just enough strength under his bald brain to make Superman have a miserable time. He's probably 100 or even more steps ahead of him. And that is what initially left me in awe. I finally see that there's no way Superman can beat him. There's no muscle or nothing that could stop that perfect plan. He not only makes him weak and strips him of his strength as always, he destroys his reputation. He gets inside his house, takes his dog, and leaves without any guilt whatsoever. Like for real, Kryptonite is just like a slight part of making Superman weak and vulnerable. It's just like a fraction of it. And thankfully, that threat is present throughout almost the entire film, as it's supposed to be. It's not just a first act gimmick or a rushed ending twist. The film starts in media res, where everything is already set for the face-off, but Superman doesn't know it yet. Lex has dreamt about it for I don't know how many nights. And yeah, I understand that there's a sort of a trade-off with that. The film has a lot of information told in just a few minutes. Thankfully, James Gunn is very intricate with the story, and he does know the character well. Also, I realize that he has seen both sides of the coin. His experience, the audience success, but also the huge backlash with Marvel, of course. And now, he's not afraid. He knows his head could be chopped off at any time if this multiverse fails again. But he owns it. It feels like he says, screw it, I know what this character means, and I'll do my thing. He knows better than many. He's done a lot of work with kind of B-side characters, those weird and funny stories, and he knows the it factor in today's films. He gave that to the Guardians of the Galaxy, and I think to the Suicide Squad. Now the hard part with this story was doing the opposite, going to the headline character. And entertainment is so difficult to handle. I mean, it can give you living, sure, but there are better things wrapped in good and memorable storytelling. Gunn knows that Scorsese threw these films under the bus, and now he's not that niche anymore. He's in the spotlight, closer to a Ned Stark about to be beheaded than a king to be crowned. And still, he does the boldest move of this year, maybe alongside Coogler's storytelling with Sinners. He didn't back down on that personification of goodness that Superman is. I mean, he and Captain America are the guys holding the flag on their hands, and they cry, sweat, and bleed out with it. And that's okay, there's no need to go another way. That's what this movie bets on, and that's what it delivers in an amazing way. Superman is that guy who knows he's being bullied, but stays there to take the punch. He is the guy who prefers to be with his loved ones on a cozy couch, drinking cocoa. Actually, he does it in the film. He doesn't want to hurt anyone. He has that old-fashioned way of seeing things with a tight moral compass, and that is okay for the film. And it is okay because that's his weakness. It's that simple. He gets bullied by Luthor over and over without any sort of advantage for a very long time. And just a slight miscalculation leaves an open door, a chance to escape, get back his dog, and do what he does best. But it's more complex. The final battle is a real struggle between good and evil. Lex uses every tool to fight from behind the screen. He has a repertoire of punches and knowledge, and Clark just lets that be. Because yes, it may sound redundant, but his flaw is his strength. He is the best one out there because every other hero in this universe prefers to mind their own business. That's very The Boys like. And he, against all the odds, decides to stay good and go and son Luthor in his cabin with all of his staff watching. And not only with strength, but with maturity and something similar to kindness. He knows that all of Luthor's plans were just BS, hiding his insecurities. Well, being honest, I don't think he knew it, he just bet on it. So even though it's very simple, after all of this, we have a very elaborate main character, dumb and naive in a good way, and a very insecure, neurotic villain who hides behind people, armor, or anything nearby to feel safe. And that's what they've always been. But this time, after a very long time, they do feel real and approachable. At the end, I know that like the film is hard to rate. Technically, it's a roller coaster of fast-paced scenes, a rapid rhythm like many other blockbusters this year, and yes, some people don't like that. Maybe old people don't like this. I went with a friend who actually said, "This isn't my Superman." He said it felt too new and modern. Whereas with my opinion, I just felt it was like the opposite of that. That hurts critic rating, I know it. But it almost made it, just by showing how a real story full of moral values and goodness can still be successful today. And I'm feeling that maybe, just maybe, that's what's missing from modern cinema. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and keep the conversation in the comment section.